Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a lovely break. How was your break, Midgeman?
That was nice. Made sure I got some hydration after casting those games, stretched about a bit. Hope you guys did too. Remember, hydration is important, especially in these long days, and I hope we've had a lot of you here since the beginning and watching all the way through. But yeah, keep yourself safe at the same time.
Yeah, and I have to be honest and admit that I made a mistake. I showed both Midgeman and Tommy where the speed 5 swords were, which meant they spent then 10 minutes posing with the swords, which admittedly is, as the kids say, good content.
Yeah, I mean, you've thrown us all under the bus here, but I think you just show anyone medieval stuff and we go, ooh, fun.
Swords. I mean, admittedly, they are. But that's not what we're here for. We're here, of course, at Commanders in Conflict, playing Hearts of Iron 4 duels. One player versus another player in our special made mod. You know what? We've had 3 rounds today. We're into the 4th one. But before we get started, maybe we should have a look at the leaderboard.
Ooh, yeah.
Because exciting things have happened. Leonard is undefeated so far, 3 wins and 0 losses. Discard Pixel and Dankus Memecus both on 2 wins, 1 loss. Absolute Habibi, C-Mops, and Courier, unfortunately, still without a win, according to our setup here. But the matchups for round 2, oh, sorry, I'm like, you know what? The breaks are messing with me. I was so on point, and now I'm slightly like, what's going on? What are we doing? But the thing we're supposed to be doing is talking about the matchups of round 4, of course, where the big game that we're going to focus on is Discard Pixel versus Dankus Memecus, and on the sides we have Leonard versus Absolute Habibi and C-Mops versus Courier. The thing that's exciting about Discard Pixel versus Dankus Memecus is that they currently both have 2 wins, 1 loss.
Yes.
So they're trailing Leonard by 1 win, essentially. And as I'm sure we mentioned, the single elimination tournament tomorrow has the top 2 seeds only playing semi-final and then advancing straight to the grand final.
Yes.
Whereas if you're on seed 3, 4, 5, or 6, you do have to do a quarterfinal to get into the semi-final. So you really want to be seed 1 or seed 2.
Yeah, seed 1 and seed 2, just getting that extra level of protection tomorrow so they don't get knocked out of the tournament right away. Yeah.
Also, you don't have to get up as early because
that's also true. Yeah, well, this is something I was pointing out in the previous games as well. Match fitness is a thing, because if you're going through a full day of games, it can be tiring.
Yeah, and someone who cares a lot about match fitness, according to their quote, is of course Dankus Memecus with the quote, esports. To remind ourselves again, of course, 2 battles, 1 lost. Discard Pixel, 2 1 lost in a field of dandelions. And that's probably how, you know, they find their center. And, you know, get piece that you do need, because for the first 3 rounds, right, it was pretty much game, 10-minute break.
Yes.
Game, 10-minute break. It's a lot of games real quick.
Yeah, and a lot of that 10 minutes was also changeover time. It's not necessarily that they get to, you know, get up and move around, etc.
Yeah.
They're like, oh wait, I've now got to be in to host the next game, prepare to set up, do the faction choices, take a look at my starting scenario, start thinking and psyching yourself up for the next game. It's a lot of energy. It really is. Some fun stats actually coming out from the games we've had so far. So we've had a 62.5% win rate for Axis compared to Allies. 11.1% of faction picks for the Allies have been the USA. 38.3% of all faction picks have been the Commonwealth for the Allies. Japan, I thought it was really dominating. It's only 33% of all commander picks, which is, but it's still, I think it still has the most statistical picks, second to Commonwealth, which I really didn't realize. A lot of the sub games we've been seeing, we actually haven't seen them showcased, but there's been a lot of similar choices in there. Yeah. Still no picks on the Soviet line, nor the Italian line, which is really bizarre, because the Italian line is essentially the US line for the Axis. Slightly, it's very center ground balanced, and it's the superior firepower doctrine, which is in-game said to be one of the most important doctrines to players, at least in a lot of Hearts of Iron. So it's really surprising to see the Axis players moving away from that, but I think that's to do with just how dominant Japan has been. But Italy's no pushover.
Because that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. How much do you think these picks are more comfort picks rather than this is clearly the best line to go down?
What I think we're seeing a lot of is someone has been beaten by that build, and then someone's going, oh, I'm going to try that in their next game, rather than self-discovery, shall we say. I'm really looking forward to see if we do get those extra picks, because there are some really nice things in, say, the Soviet line and the Italian line that could really be a game changer at certain points of the game, but it's just about how the players use them and utilize those.
Very interesting. I mean, I feel like we can keep talking about like the meta, right, and how it's evolving, and we're still, I think, now I have to do math. We're 9 games in total, so you know, statistically insignificant. On the other hand, we also have access to all the games played.
Yeah, that's
well, actually not necessarily true, because I know that there are people that have helped our players download the one before, and then kind of like help them practice essentially. But let's remind ourselves of the leaderboard so we can see what we're to play for, because we are getting down to the wire now, in that we have 2 rounds left and players really want those higher seeds. And I think the people to look for, of course, is, you know, Leonard, Discard Pixel, and Dankus Memecus. I mean, likely to be top 1, 2, 3 seed, right?
But so this game that we're about to see is essentially the playoff for position 2.
Yeah.
If all of the other games go in a similar statistic, that has actually been updated. Korea actually has won a game, so they've broken away from the rest of the pack there. So there was a slight mistake in that previous. But it's look at that. We're actually getting a really clear lineup, which actually just even more so puts on how important this next match is going to be. Just
as some extra incitement and some extra spice here, Courier is going up against Leonard.
Yes.
Leonard is undefeated. But if Courier does defeat Leonard here, then all of a sudden the field is not wide open, but Courier sits at 2 wins, 2 losses. Leonard's all of a sudden at 3 wins, 1 loss. Either Discard Pixel or Dankus Memecus is going to be at 3 wins, 1 loss. The other player is going to be at 2 wins, 2 losses. So it might actually come slightly down to the wire here.
Yeah, the pack will go from being further spread to much closer in the spread, and we're going to really start seeing, which means it puts like less of a pressure of, oh, I did really badly the day before on tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes, pack was really close. Everyone's still finding their feet. Even if I lose every game today, I could win this tomorrow, which is still the case, no matter what. No one is getting knocked out today. So even if the showing is not what you feel like you would want to do, you could still walk away with a win at the end of this whole event.
And if you're not playing, but watching and enjoying it, I do actually have a mission or a challenge. Well, it's not a challenge. It's just, please help us out. If you like what Speed 5 is doing, please follow, join our Discord at discord.gg/speed5. Follow us on Twitch. Go and check out the mod. Hopefully, we'll have it updated to the current Hearts of Iron 4 update soon enough. But in the meantime, you can backdate your game and play it that way. I mean, you need a friend to play it with anyways, except...
You can play it against the AI.
You have played against the AI.
I've played against the AI a few times, and especially if you ramp up the difficulty. I actually lost to the AI once, which is kind of embarrassing. Yeah. But it still works as almost a solo survival, and it gives you a really good insight into what the different paths do and an exploration.
But the big takeaway, of course, is like, comment, and subscribe. Some people that have already liked, commented, and subscribed are my 2 absolute favorite casters, and we're going to swing over to them right now. It's Count Christo and Tommy K, and here they are.
Beautiful people of the internet, wake up! Because we have the best game, maybe the best game of today for you. Discard Pixel versus Dankus Memecus. I'm sweating already. Are you sweating?
I am. Did you comment And like, I'm not sure I did. I think he's putting on airs. I don't know.
I'm going to do that.
But yes, it's going to be a fantastic game for you to round out the last 2 streamed of our evening. We've got Dankus and we've got Discard Pixel. And one of the things I think is really interesting about this one is we have Dankus in a position to potentially repeat what he's just done, right? Dankus is in the Allied Powers. He's going to be storming across. He's going to be presumably going for a pretty similar strategy. And you have to imagine it's just worked. He's like to try and do it again. But we know the players are talking to each other. We know there's all kinds of information going back and forth. You have to imagine that Discard Pixel is going to be ready for that. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he tries to counter this kind of crushing along the top. I'm also very curious to see if he does the same thing with the tanks, Dankus, that is. But it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting.
I want to remind everyone that Pixel in the interview, he talked about a secret strategy that even the
True.
casters haven't seen yet.
True.
I think I might have figured out. We will see about that, but I think we really have 2 guys here on the same level fighting it off in a second. I think this game, as we've seen before, Pixel cannot just rely on his defense. He's going to be challenged by Dankus here. And the boys are hot. They're asking for the go. Dankus already waiting very hard. So let's get into the game.
Absolutely.
Take
okay.
a look.
Without further ado, bang,
The go is out.
Let's go for it. 60 minutes starts now. We are going to be seeing early on the classic, what's becoming the classic picks. We have the Japanese Expeditionary Force for the Axis powers, and we have the US Army. Certainly Dankus's, as we were hearing just now on the stats, not the most popular pick, but certainly Dankus's most popular pick so far. We've also got, of course, the classic 2 railways being built on both sides, exactly what you'd expect to see there. What's fun about this, as we were saying, the number of games we've had so far, it's not time for a meta to evolve, but what we are seeing is certainly at least some things beginning to crystallize. You build a railway, you tend to end up having the Axis take Malta. I'm really interested to see if Dankus tries to contest that this time, because obviously last time he was happy to kind of let it go, but with casualties. Right? He hit a lot of people. There were 25,000 troops lost in the attack of Malta, which is obviously not what you want to be seeing. Had that paratroop drop and the troops going over. Could have just paratroop dropped, of course, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. In terms of build and things so far, one thing I noticed that I thought was a bit unusual is that we do have convoys being built here over on the Axis powers, which is curious to me. I mean, do you have thoughts? Did they run? Have we been seeing? I haven't been seeing players run all the way out of convoys, but what do you think? What's the idea here?
Interesting, because as I'm clicking on Dankus, he's doing exactly the same 5 naval dockyards on convoys here.
Really?
And the meta is once again changing, Christo.
What is
I wonder.
going on?
Maybe they just realized now, hey, we're spawning in Navy with these focuses.
Yeah.
Maybe the supply for Malta and possible naval invasions is more important. I need convoys here.
I mean, that could certainly be it. Moving towards just going with the land as well. If they decided to focus on that, one thing we could see here, if they decide to both focus land. I mean, if they were focusing land, surely he wouldn't have gone Japan. But more focus on land, it does raise the risk of a draw. Right, if Valletta does not fall, that it has happened once, we could see another stalemate at sea. But I can't see Dankus doing that. I mean, Dankus has proven the ability to break really well fortified positions with that excellent play in our previous game. If you missed that, chat, you should definitely go back and watch the replays and things. It was really quite something to behold.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, what that was from Dankus as well was quite a slow play, right? He drove across slowly, building up the railway behind him. I wonder if we're going to see the same strategy, because he also, of course, deployed. There we go, switching over to submarines now. Just wanted a couple more convoys. How about the if we hop over to here? How about the Axis powers? Are they? No, still on convoys. Okay.
He's staying on convoys. Interesting once again. Maybe this is the secret Pixel is talking about. The anti-air 2 build. He loves the anti-air 2. He also, once again, is rushing his flame tank. If you don't know, chat, Engineer Company 2 enables you to do flame tanks, which Pixel is a great fan of. So an anti-air build, once again, I'm also guaranteeing he's probably doing anti-air tanks out of this again. And I think this is his way to deal with the air battle in this game here.
If we compare what's currently being researched at the moment, it's really interesting, because on the one hand, we've got the survivability studies heavy machine gun anti-tank coming out for Dankus. The classic kind of countering any potential tanks coming out of Pixel, but also getting the really decent beefed up Air Force. But then on the other side, yeah, the anti-air, and you know, as everyone knows, building anti-air sufficient such that you can counter enemy air coming in, way cheaper than building the air.
Exactly.
You know, as just astonishingly cheaper.
And it just, when I look at Pixel here, I see an anti-CAS build. The anti-air takes down the CAS, and what does an armored train do? It makes CAS not do so much anymore.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's already putting himself in a position where he's saying, if you have CAS, Dankus, it's not gonna work. I'm sorry, mate.
It seems like it. I mean, especially because Dankus's massive breakthrough on Tripoli last time, it was heavily CAS-based. You know, he had some really good divisions for certain, but a huge amount of the org damage was being done by CAS. And yeah, go ahead.
Let's take a look here at, we haven't seen them yet in the build-up phase, when everything's still chill. Very interesting. Setting everything up, checking his officers.
I'm interested to see him looking at the intel screen. Has he acquired a agency? He's not. Okay.
So far, I think the only agency we've seen today was from Leonard. Isn't that true?
No, there was one other.
Oh yeah,
but I forget. I'm afraid. But yes, I think it's interesting to see when people choose to play that. No agency so far in this one. I honestly don't think the agency has been hugely informative, and it's more informative when you're more uncertain about what your opponent's going to do. I feel like now they've had some more practice, they're more likely to feel comfortable about, okay, I know roughly where the blow is likely to land, what the blow is likely to consist of in terms of, you know, is it going to be tanks, is it going to be navy, is it going to be air? Now that they're feeling a bit more comfortable, that they might have sussed out a little bit of what people are trying to do, I feel like they're more confident in their understandings of what people are going to do. I'm curious what the next science direction for Dankus is going to be. I feel like that will tell us quite a bit about where his strategy is going to go. Building wise, yes, still going hard on submarines. And there we go. The fighters have come out. I have to imagine this is going to be very similar to last time. Yes,
he loves that build.
The straight up fighter plus the... okay. Actually, this is a different bomb build, but I think that might just be because he hasn't invented the stuff he wants to put on it last time. Because this is with the small bomb bay as opposed to... Oh, no, he does have bomb locks. Okay, so he's going for small bomb bay instead of bomb locks. That's interesting.
And already see very interesting thing here. He is making bombers. He's making CAS. And we just talked about this.
Yep.
Discord Pixel doing the anti-CAS. Already a slight little advantage here maybe for Discord Pixel.
Yep. And, you know, we've been talking about the Axis favoring so far. The Axis are slightly favored at the moment. And what's this we got here? The Rush B. Nice. Okay. With the camelry. Let's go.
The lonely camels are a big thing here today.
You've got to love the camelry. So we've got the... yeah, absolutely. The Axis have been slightly favored, but 60% of victories, it's not that favored, honestly. I know the players think that the Axis is definitely favored, but I don't know. With only 60%, I mean, especially if this game goes to Dankus, it's practically eliminating a large portion of that advantage.
Exactly. The group of games we have to look at isn't big enough yet, and we have seen the allies win time and time again, and we're gonna see them win even more in the future.
I certainly suspect so. Yes, the airframe is being cranked out. I'm curious to see the anti-tank. He's clearly concerned that Pixel might be looking towards getting some of the getting some tank stuff, which so far he's shown no indication that he's going to do yet. But of course, you know.
Also, no air yet by Pixel. Not researching any air. Doesn't care here about any air researchers regarding engines, or where Dankus was doing survivability studies and the heavy MG2. He is ignoring that. He's saying, I don't need air, I need anti-air, and I'm going to beat you on other fields, Dankus. Going to be very interesting to see how that turns out in the end. Let's switch over to Dankus again.
He is.
Also now doing the armor train.
Yep. And obviously Dispersed, we haven't really touched on this yet, but Dispersed is obviously the meta pick just because of the number of times you want to switch things and the lack of, you know, many years to stay consistently building the same thing, which is where Concentrated really shines. But yeah, not too much going on the template so far. The 40 width name, at least, coming out there is interesting to see. Very classic order for what's going on the focuses. It's the first two, then straight into the industry.
Yeah, they are really looking at their meta builds here, which is just rushing the second of their assigned nations and then getting these mills ASAP. We saw it in the previous game that Pixel went into the Civ building tree, but only when he was safe. When he knew, I have Malta, I'm defending here, you have to come to me, I can build my Civs now. A beautiful, I will even think the Civs are becoming more effective for the defending player who can't afford going for these focuses.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I wanted to highlight, I know this has been mentioned before, but I know more people are joining in here as you return after our break. The thing about this particular matchup, it doesn't guarantee you that you're safe from the first round of elimination tomorrow, but it makes it likely because each of these players have 2 wins. And if you can claim 3 straight wins today, then it's very difficult to push you out of the second spot, or at very least drawn for the second spot. Because, of course, only one of our players has straight wins so far, and I believe we're going to be seeing them next round, but I can't quite confirm that. But yeah, so the victor of today, of this battle rather, is going to come out of today feeling very, very happy. They're going to be feeling very safe, and they're going to be feeling like they are setting themselves up really well for tomorrow. Because, of course, not only are they safe in the first round, but we're going to be playing, top seed versus bottom seed, meaning that we have a spectrum. Everyone playing today is very, it's an excellent player, and I mean absolutely no disrespect by this, but there are some who are better than others. That's plain to see, of course. It's the nature of a competition that some people are going to come out on top, and so by doing better today, you set yourself up to have a longer time before you have to face them tomorrow.
Here we see the return of Discord Pixels meta. We see the anti-air light tank, a basic light tank, and a medium tank. There might be a little mistake here. This is not the flame tank. I think he forgot to click the button to turn it into a flame tank. That could be a mistake. He's bringing his division back. We've seen before, even armored reconnaissance giving the division more armor, anti-air tanks. This is his division. He is all about being anti-air. Let's switch back to Dankus over here. Also, normal research, normal build-up. Already getting far more air than Pixel, which makes sense since Pixel isn't going for air. And offering us...
But no tanks. He is going for the improved anti-tank, although none of it is actually being produced yet. If I grab control here, he's got these level 2 anti-tanks queued up, not actually building them. More excited about getting some of this CAS produced here, but it's going to be very interesting. I mean, air versus tank, it's one of the great questions, and I'm very curious to see who comes out. There is the switch on those medium tanks over to flavors. Presumably he could convert what few he had made nice and quickly anyway, if he needed to there. Also armored train, yep, so again, the anti-cast build is fully in effect. I mean, yeah, this is a great battle. This is the great conflict of the 2 massively influential military modernizations of World War II. It's tank versus plane.
One thing I'm afraid, though, for our boy Dankus here is we see he's putting 6 factories into CAS, and CAS is just something that Discord Pixel wants to see. He knows he's going to easily shoot it down. It's not going to be a problem. So the question is really, will these 6 mills that will go into this CAS make a difference? Are they a waste? Is he going to realize it? That's already a very interesting development here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, if we're thinking about 6 mills, it might not sound like that much to you. It's almost half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's approaching. It's about 40% of his mills right now.
A pretty big commitment
into that. Very big commitment. Absolutely, absolutely. Is his close air support airframe? Let me
once again, we see on Discord Pixel logistic company, something I would like to see so much more. The big issue is, as I preach, is the logistics, and he's the only player so far I've seen doing logistical companies, and especially when he reaches level 2 of that, he gets a minus 20%.
Yep.
No, minus 10% supply usage and minus 5% fuel usage, and in North Africa, in this battle of attrition, this is going to help so much.
It certainly will. It certainly will. It is minus 20 because this is the additional bonus, of course, that we're adding. With the minus 10%. So yeah, the minus 20%. I mean, there's lots of modifiers that people seek out in Hearts of Iron to give themselves, 5% extra heavy attack at sea, 5% extra of this. 20% less supply usage means you can put 20% more men in the fight. you know, that is a 20% boost. It's better than a 20% boost. You can spread out the damage across different divisions. You can keep your organization high. You can cycle troops more easily. It's incredibly impactful. And we do have the rocket artillery.
Rocket
Nice.
artillery. He loves these rockets. A beautiful bonus on soft attack that helps the land battle, especially against infantry. Not so strong, unfortunately, against a division with armor. And if we take a look at Discord Pixel's whole division, the armor is 5.1.
Okay, which will be coming up against, for now, a piercing of 43 on the main ones. That armor's not going to do too much. What share of the armor? What's the hardness value on Discord Pixel's template, though?
Take a look there real quick. Now we're going into the deep
Again, yes, for those of you who are less familiar with this, hard and soft attacks reflect how hard and how soft the unit is. It depends on how much of the damage it's taken, depends on the enemy's soft versus hard attack. So if it's 50% hard, that means it takes half the damage from hard attacks, half of it from soft. But as we can see here, this division is on the... rushing out a huge number of those rush bees. I'm very curious to see what
This sounds like naval invasions.
It does.
Dankus has shown last game, though, he is very ready to handle them. He was defending beautifully in Cairo.
Yes, he was. I mean, has he got something like that set up again? Not yet, but you have to imagine that's going to come later on. I mean, yeah, I can't see... The only way I see a naval invasion helping is step 1, you control the sea. Step 2, you force your enemy to just use a train.
Oh, that's sad for Mr. Imamura.
Oh, yeah, unfortunate. And then step 3, you cut their train line in like 3-4 different places. So yes, they're going to be able to kill your naval invasion, but in the time they take to do it, that's when you launch your offensive. That's when you hit them when they've got no supply because their train line is cut and you have them at sea. And Discord Pixel is in a position to do something like that.
We see also our first difference in the focus tree. Now, Dank is going for the civilian factories, whereas Pixel is going back into his main tree, getting infantry equipment, getting air. Interesting to see how that is going to turn out, because that will give Dankus Memecus the lead in civilian factories early on.
Yes, it will. And it's worth noting that the lead it gives him in the air is naval bombers. You know, not as useful as they could be when your enemy is likely. Although naval bombers are good for finding and destroying those things. And look at this. Dankus doing the classic.
The railgun is becoming a thing, apparently.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. In this mod, in this scenario, you need 1 railgun. Don't need 2, 3. 1 is enough to give you the bonus of 10% on all stats. And it's a beautiful idea, but it needs 5 mils for a while in order to be built.
Yes, a long time. I mean, it's very, very pricey. You know, it's the equivalent of many, many, many items of other equipment that you could be having. There's a lot of flame tanks. There's a lot of flame tanks that you're not having.
He told us so. That is not a secret.
Aha, okay, okay, interesting, interesting. I mean, I'm very curious to see how this this Rush B approach goes from the Axis powers. And of course, Rush B, a very appropriate name given the building that we're in. This we're you know, in the basement of a place where CS:GO tournaments have been held.
That's where players mostly are.
So we're in the right place for a Rush B build, but we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, on the countdown to war, only 65 days remaining on that ever-present countdown. We've got not too long before we are barreling into this conflict here. In terms of navies, has Discord Pixel bothered to spawn his navy yet? Not yet, so presumably he'll do that now or next focus. I imagine now is probably the moment to do that. Yes, there they go. Carriers through the straits. Taking a quick look at some of the officer corps picks, we have got a brave commanders on the naval, higher chance of critical hits, and the air power projection factor increase. Okay, interesting. Meanwhile, over on Dankus, we've got nighttime fighting. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Nighttime attack plus 10% and 10% spotting. Effectively, it's plus 5% attack, right?
Yep.
Half of the time it's night, last I checked, although not in Sweden at the moment, I must say. So you're going to have, effectively it's a 5% bonus, and the decreased visibility, obviously, great for his submarines, just trying to fly under the radar, just trying to mess with those Axis supply lines. Then, yeah, no surprises here. Centralized control, we've got that fighter detection and the air mission.
But once again, step by step again, we see decisions from tanks that will have no impact. Detecting fighters, there's no fighters on this topic.
Yep.
So
it's certainly true. It's really interesting how hard countered Dankus' build seems to be. So we're going to see, you know, we were talking, putting the puzzle piece together. multi-spectrum warfare, covering across all the bases, it all coming together. What happens when one leg of the stool is cut away by Discord Pixel's hard countering of this kind of build? It's going to be very interesting to see if we can see the House of Cards come tumbling down, and then it's checkmate.
Exactly.
So we've got the naval invasion being planned, just a couple of Rush Bs stuck on that. He's not expecting resistance, and right now it appears that he is not going to get it. One interesting thing we are seeing, though, the US fleet here of Dankus sitting off Benghazi, presumably some of it rather damaged, actually, I note, from the training.
Yeah.
I imagine just sitting there ready for some shore bombardment. Also potentially anticipating the need to intercept an early naval invasion of Benghazi. That's one of the wild cards that we've seen a few times here. He's also going for the one sub Wolfpack strategy, not planning on having these guys survive, just wants to try and hit as many naval invasions at once as possible. Going to be interesting to see how that goes. Yes, Leonard did win his third game. He is the only player right now with a clean sweep of victories. Let's see if Dankus can catch up to him. I know Dankus is very keen to prove that his early loss against Leonard means nothing regarding their relatives.
Oh yeah, he was very emotional when I talked to him about that, especially against this old friend. If we take a look here at Discord Pixel, rather, we see he's spawning in 100 naval bombers, and if you look at the name of this division, it gives you a little tip what's going on here. The Hold division. Is he maybe just trying to get Malta, hold Tripoli, and just make Dankus come at him? That's going to be very interesting. But Dankus has shown last game he is ready to go this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, CMOPS tried that and failed. This is a stronger division. CMOPS went with the wider, many small divisions, whereas what's happening here for Discord Pixel is, you know, smaller divisions, sorry, not smaller divisions, fewer divisions, but substantially stronger. So, I mean, we will see. But with merely days remaining, let's take a final look at the situation here. There is the war.
There it is.
That has broken out. Fantastic. And we are away.
And the naval invasion is going. There's a bunch of Dankus' submarines trying to intercept this, but the convoy defense is there. The main fleet is there. One poor camel getting caught, unfortunately.
Yep.
But he's getting through.
And the forces are charging in the east. Ooh, some of Dankus' 40 wits, sorry if I can grab this, very much undersupplied. Very much undersupplied. Perhaps a slight error of judgment in terms of how the industry was managed there. Although, of course, it's worth mentioning that the players rarely immediately butt up against each other. It was only in our first game where the conflict was near immediate. But I'm not seeing Valletta falling yet. No, they've been caught once more, but they are capably defending.
They haven't. I can see right now 4 convoys went down, and another time this 2 with. No, this is a whole division, a good division.
Ah, they sent the good division.
Getting caught again.
Yep. But it looks like it's being ably defended at the moment. Yes, it has indeed made it out of that fight alive. Benghazi has fallen, but there are more raids over there. Oh, it's sub v sub action off the coast of Benghazi, and interesting. Dankus pushing a little bit further than last time, but it looks like both sides, yes, drawing up fairly standard lines of battle, as I do not doubt they will soon begin. Yes, here we go. Some of the classic industrial build-up plays that we're seeing, and the allies being the ones that need to they need to come at them. You know, it's required. Interestingly, here we are actually seeing some of the Axis destroyers going down to subs, but the subs are just slowly being identified and taken out here. It appears he's not attempting to withdraw with these submarines. He's taken out 4 destroyers now. But yeah,
submarines are doing a great job.
They are, but it's not a good trade because the number of submarines he has versus the number of destroyers that are available to Discord Pixel is not a number that favors him. Interesting. Look at this. Now that Tripoli has fallen, Discord Pixel is attempting to launch a second naval invasion, just wanting to guarantee that he can grab that island. Dankus hasn't made any attempt to monopolize on the fact that the island was not taken early. There's no new naval invasion from Benghazi, for example.
It looks like he's just trying to stall for time.
Yes, it seems so. But there it is. He has now fallen. And look at that. Discord Pixel at 0 fuel. He's going to be very, very glad of those additional ones over here.
And very glad he didn't do air in that
Yes,
scenario.
he's gone straight over to military governor, of course, which is going to be helping him on the resource gain in the province, while also not getting too much in the way of resistance. But he needs to get his fleet into port, because right now he's consuming a colossal amount on the Navy, 4,000.
Unfortunately, the fleet has been stuck for ages against this submarine fleet. And yes, Dankus is losing his submarine fleet, as we can see right here.
Yeah.
But he is stalling Dankus and taking his fuel away.
Absolutely.
Again, actually, Dankus, Pixel needs his fuel because he has a lot of tanks in his divisions.
They both do, really, because one is trying to run a big tank division and one is trying to run a whole lot of planes. And so the longer he can keep them in there, you know, Dankus sitting here very happily, full fuel. And meanwhile, with Discord Pixel with none, it's going to mean that the air war is going to be comprehensively in Dankus's favor early on.
Already getting the green air on himself here. But we're now in the situation we were talking about a second ago. Discord Pixel is ready to defend. He has the points of Malta and Tripoli, and it's now Dankus's turn to do something about this. And I feel like Pixel is a player that's very comfortable in this situation where he just needs to defend. I mean, he's calling his divisions whole divisions. He has the experience to know he's now building up his supply. He's ready to welcome Dankus' division, and Dankus has to be on the move now.
But the interesting thing about this is that the way he's building up is he's holding forward of Tripoli. It's not the same line that's used, and this is one of the things, you know, this is a relatively simple scenario, right? But the brilliance, the wonderful thing about Hearts of Iron is that nothing is simple. Because look at this, it's a completely different front line that was being held than by the previous player. It's a completely different strategy being used. He's building a railway back off the coastline, as many of our players have done, to minimize the number of provinces they have to build it in. But it's going to take him a while, because in a way that does not deviate from our previous player, he has only 7 civs on here. Meanwhile, the 30 civs of Dankus are banging away. The hammer of industry falling hard, and there is the fruits of its labor. Smoke and ashes completed, while the supply situation rapidly stabilizes in Dankus's favor. And remember, railways are something you can see on the map. There's no degree of intelligence you need to know where the railways are. By intelligence, I'm not insulting our players. I mean in terms of technical intelligence, you know, spy networks and such like. But they can see where the railways are, which means Dankus knows right now that there is a potential for an early alpha strike, because what Discord Pixel does not have is, here is the motorization from Discord Pixel, but what he doesn't have is a completed railway, even to Tripoli, which means that if a sufficient quantity of the supply can be interdicted here, and you know he's trying, and you know Discord Pixel is trying hard to stop him, but if he can get a sufficient amount of the supply interdicted here, they're going to be in real trouble, because he can push from this point, and look, he's pushing it beyond the one he's already built. You know, here goes the railway extending forwards with the guys doing. I love seeing some push-ups on the front line. Yeah, it's lovely to see. But I mean, there's a moment of weakness here that we have yet to see an Allies player successfully exploit, because the Allies player, especially with the US build, they have way more industry. They can get their supply situation under control much faster than the Axis can. And if he can exploit that, it's going to be really interesting. And what we're seeing as well from Discord Pixel is what I would call a confident play, because there's no rail line connecting Tripoli to this. So far, he at least is prioritizing getting all the way down here to the front. And that front connection is going to be done, but not until May. There's a whole month before that's going to be finished. Meanwhile, a new port here is coming out, 6 days after it. So it looks like, sadly, for the sake of our excitement, Dankus is not going to be taking advantage of that. He's pushed forwards a little bit, he's throwing down another port, securing his advantage, securing his gain there. But it's going to be very interesting to see once battle is joined, because there are still supply issues here, and there is the connection now being made. Okay, it wasn't actually a tactical choice, just a matter of order of operations there, but still, it's going to take a while to get all of those things fought, and the air war rages on. Let's see how it's going here. It's pretty even, honestly. Pretty even indeed.
And we cannot forget the air that Discord Pixel has here is spawned in air. He never used a single military factory on this.
Yep.
As we can see over here. And I feel like Dankus is just saying, Pixel is just saying, hey, this air war doesn't mean much to me. My anti-air is making sure you're not going to cast me. You're not going to logistically strike me, which Cast can do also. And he's just standing here. He's now building up his confident position of a supply hub. Right there. He's working on it. And it's going to be really interesting to see
how Dankus is reacting. He has to be on the move. The allies are unfortunately often by the move that because the victory point of Malta is just often taken by the Axis. Unlike it's a Leonard game and he plays the allies, he's taking that for sure. And you can see how slowly they're creeping up to each other. Dankus
it's a good point. Thank you, chat, for pointing that out. We should be at speed 3. I'll just put that in the chat here. So that they can hopefully see that. But yes, we are rocking at speed 4. But hey, it's going to keep things exciting here for us. So I'm not fully against it.
Also, Pixel is now keeping up with the Civ count. He just finished all his Civ focuses, now also at 30 civilian factories and spawning in his first armored division at 32 with armored division that he is probably going to use for defense here.
Yeah, look at this timing, though. He has reached the front line literally the day that the port finished. That was poor timing. I have to imagine he's not too happy about that. Infrastructure on the one side. Absolutely. But look at this. This is really interesting. We're seeing the air war. You know, there are some things the air war, thank you. There's some things the air war can't do. Right now, it can't really break Discord Pixel's units, but it can break his infrastructure. Because if we look at the two sides of this front, we've got 2 levels of infrastructure, both damaged fully. On the other side, we've got 2 levels of infrastructure, no damage. Now that's going to be impactful. That's going to affect the speed they can move. That's going to affect the ability of the resources to move around properly, to get to decent ranges, all that kind of thing. So I wonder if we're going to see whether the air is in fact going to be more influential than we think, because it might well turn out that it is. I mean, we're seeing some supply issues on the other side, but that's of course because these are 40 width divisions. Whereas if we're looking at the whole divisions on the other side, they're a bit lighter, but they also notably, if I can actually manage to switch over here, there we go. They also notably, of course, have that which Tommy is always raging about. Oh, they don't actually have the logistics companies in them yet. Interesting.
That is very interesting.
But they're a lot smaller. They're a lot smaller. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they manage to do here on the defense.
When he's going to add that supply, I'm taking a look at the support equipment. It doesn't look that bad. He could actually supply it.
Yeah,
but that means another ace up Discord Pixel sleeve. And now we see his divisions are for the first time fully supported by supply. He can hold this position very comfortably.
Yep. I mean, and he's building up there. I wonder if he'll try and fort it up. I mean, it's only 3 provinces. They can only get 2 angles of attack on one of those provinces. This here is these two are, you know, they may be desert. There's no hills or anything, but they're very easy to defend because only one way in, one way out. That also limits the availability of CAS. Yet another way where that advantage in the air is being mitigated. The numbers in the air so far haven't swung wildly one way or the other, and that's mostly because, of course, Discord Pixels are all fighters, and the fighters are managing to trade quite well against the enemy fighters, but of course, the enemy CAS is managing to get those hits in on the infrastructure.
Think about that. Discord Pixel hasn't built a single plane in this game, whereas Dankus, I'm looking right now, 12 military factories at the moment at air.
Yep.
And putting 12 military factories into something that you're still kind of just winning.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be
scary.
It is. And we've got the gun coming out in July, at which point, of course, he'll have those 5 factories freed up. He's also got exactly the same defensive strategy that he set up last time to avoid any of those dangerous naval invasions. He's got the 50 width worth of troops available here. He will also, of course, occasionally have stuff available in reserve, ready to deploy. But it's going to be really interesting. I mean, will this be enough? We haven't seen a naval invasion planned so far. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a major naval invasion here. It seems risky. But the Rush B divisions, I mean, they make me curious. They certainly make me curious about what's going to happen here. What is Dankus waiting for right now? Well, one thing is obviously he's getting a couple more of these naval bases out, and the other one is, of course, the railway gun. Once the railway gun is out, we can expect to see that moving towards the front line, and that's when I have to imagine one of the major offensives will be launched. But the defensive line, it looks pretty beefy. It's a tiny bit overstacked.
There's the forts you were talking about.
Oh, yes, so there are. Interestingly, they're being built back on Tripoli. He's building... Oh, no, sorry, excuse me. It's the Tripoli state, of course. Interesting. So he's building them here and here. Now, that's curious. I wonder why not here. Perhaps because the railway line being cut if this province falls is just all the more devastating than some other areas. Oh, and he did actually go concentrated. Interesting. Okay. Happy to know that he's just going to set these things and then forget them. He's not going to be shifting around or upgrading any of this, getting straight into to what he wants here. And yes, destroyer hulls coming out here does not surprise me, trying to counter Dankus's now classic allied submarine spam. There we go. Moved all the way up to the front line. Yep, grabbing an elite marine division there, probably mostly just for the equipment that it comes with. Honestly, I don't expect a huge naval invasion. Although, I mean, one thing we haven't seen yet, this is not a very long way to naval invade. If he could land troops here and take the port, that would be really, really impressive. I mean, there is a decent division holding it, and he probably has been able to scout that, but even so, I mean, that's the kind of place you could put a lot of pressure. Look at all these ports that Dankus is putting in. He really, really doesn't want the supply situation here to go against him. And of course, remembering that each port provides its own little hub for supply. So he's going to be able to get a lot of troops in here. I mean, that's an interesting evolution of the meta. This is something we haven't seen yet, the kind of spammed port build. Because if he motorizes the ones behind, they're going to be able to take up a huge amount of slack. He's going to be able to put so many men on this front line. It's going to be quite something.
And there's the first attack right now.
Oh, wow,
Ports,
already.
better supply hubs. He has the supply.
Wow, and going handily in his favor.
Easily taking that. I'm also checking what the people are constructing, and Dankus is comfortably constructing with 36, while Discord Pixel has a lot of damage on his side here. He is being logistic bombed. He has a bunch of railways and infrastructure being destroyed.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Look at this. So, I mean, this fight is going decisively in Dankus's favor. He's managing to... They are last standing, so they're holding fine, but they're taking huge damage. Huge damage. He is piercing, obviously, trivially, through the anti-air, because he did get those infantry anti-tank. He's got more people reinforcing him, but with the supply going on his side and his attack being this much greater than their defense, I mean, that's kind of absurd. He's got absolutely crushing through. And the fact that they were on... It looks like he's seeking to do damage as opposed to advance at this stage, which is interesting. But I mean, the last stand here, it has advantages. Your organization doesn't go down. But that doesn't help if you just die, right? I mean, when the divisions are being wiped out like this, look at that. Dankus proving the superiority of his divisions here. I mean, they are hefty divisions with these huge numbers. How many? There's 156 pieces of artillery.
That is a good old 40 whiff.
And look at this. We've got a withdraw to a more standard defensive line now.
We're seeing
there we
Pixel
go.
crumble for the first
Wow,
time.
this is fast.
Beautifully done.
This is going to be quite something. He was relying perhaps on a bit more time. Many of these divisions lack some of their ever-critical tanks, although actually some of them looking pretty good too. But that's not good for Discord Pixel, already having lost that key defensive point. Dankus will probably want to connect up this rail, but after that, I mean, if Discord Pixel can't hold him there, it's hard to imagine where he can hold him. I mean, this is a fairly optimal place to defend. It's going to be very interesting.
And something devastating just happened if we check over here.
Oh, yes.
He built the supply up here, which he just lost.
Oh, my lord, a proper supply hub.
Pretty big.
That's outrageous. I mean, that's a huge amount of investment.
That is a very big problem for a lot of value lost for Discord Pixel, who is so busy just repairing against this cast, where as we look at Dankus, he is just comfortably... Oh, now that is actually the stuff he took over for Pixel.
Yes.
And he is comfortably building with 30 civilian factories.
Wow! I'm sorry, we got to have a look at that front. It's a full spectrum assault.
Whoa.
And they're breaking all the way along the line. Wow, this might be the most convincing victory we've seen all evening.
This must be shocking to Pixel, because there's just a 40 with coming at me. How's the air look? Okay, he has the red air against him. Cast damage is a thing, but he's getting annihilated. The 14 force, 4 artillery in the west filled up with infantry up to 40 with something we played for a long time. Still showing how worth it is nowadays, and it's just crushing through. Pixel must be sweating here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. The front being established, we're seeing the supply being able to come in here for Dankus from these many ports that he has indeed fully motorized, and he's pushing it towards Tripoli. It looks like the third victory point is well within his grasp, but honestly, with 22 minutes on the clock, we might be looking at a capitulation.
This is looking amazing. I feel like what we haven't done yet is let's take this side from Dankus. Is he in APM mode? Is he in esports mode? Look at that face. He is ready. The APM is going through the roof.
And there is the attack on Tripoli. Green bubble we are seeing. Not quite, but he has the encirclement coming in just a moment. You have to imagine he's going to be able to pull that out without too much trouble. Discord Pixel, he built some nice looking divisions. They were great on paper, but just not enough. The encirclement of Tripoli is successful. I saw some flying helmets there. That was an encirclement destruction, and there we go. The train line continuing to build multiple bits of it, interestingly, just doubling up on making sure that train line is not breached. And we might well be barreling towards a capitulation. I'm not seeing anything on the side here. It's fine, and not seeing anything here in terms of naval invasions being planned. But Dankus, you know, look at that. It's the face of a consummate professional.
That's a man of sheer will.
Absolutely, he is committed. He's just getting people onto one thing. Yeah, he is trying to spread himself thinner in terms of holding more and more provinces. But I mean, at this point, the numbers just aren't looking good.
And
Dankus has 100, about 200,000 men deployed, and Discord Pixel has only 60,000. I think we had quite a few overruns there as they're being forced back and back and back. It's not looking good at all. There are places where Discord Pixel could theoretically hold. We're moving further and further from the supply hub of Tripoli. If we take a look here at the supply situation, yes, unsurprisingly, he is not relenting on this assault, but he is preparing for the fact that it may have to stall if supply becomes too much of a problem. He's building a supply hub here. Of course, the way that this rail has been built is very intelligent by Discord Pixel. It's conservative because he can't just attack along the coast and expect the railway to be there for him. He would have to cut all the way through southern and then up into these mountains here. I mean, it would be harder, but at this point, the numbers are just so catastrophically in Dankus's favor that it's very, very hard to see how anything could happen here. I mean, this is by far one thing that I will say about this mod that I think has been really, really well made, interestingly made, is we haven't seen this yet. This is the first, what I might call, dare I say it, stomp. And since we haven't had that, it's been very close, very even so far. And not only is it our first stomp, it's our first stomp, even though this is the current number 2 and number 3 ranked players, which is Dankus, I mean, really showing his quality here. He's really, really saying, you know, look, yes, I lost a game early, but I'm not going to let that hold me down. I'm still going to show that I have what it takes to slam through here. And there is the railway connection up to Sfax, which is going to make it even more easy for him to continue cruising through. He is, as you can see, right at the edge of his supply possibilities here. But, I mean, I can't imagine how Discord Pixel could pull this back. He obviously has one victory point, which is unlikely to lose anytime soon, but a very real risk of capitulation. He'd have to push him a long way for capitulation, but as soon as he has the supply situation enabled in Tunisia, he can just roar along that coastline. The fighting at sea continues. I mean, and again, this is proving that nothing is set in stone. We talked about the primacy of the Navy. We talked about the initiative of the Navy. But, as I said last time, land wins wars. This is where Dankus shines. This is where he is proving that, yes, you can have your big carrier Navy, whatever. I'm still just going to crush you because I have, in the most literal sense, superior firepower. He's going to bring it to bear, and he's going to crush his way up here. Yeah, I mean, this one is over.
And it's beautiful to see that a man we talked hours ago, he was losing a game hours ago, and now look at his comeback. We also talked hours ago how the Axis has a higher win rate. Where is it now?
Yes, it's true. It's
beautifully balanced here, and Dankus looking to take the win here. I must say I'm quite shocked. We saw from Discord Pixel truly a build that is soft attack based. He didn't even bother making air. He went for this bad bow with a flame tank company, medium flame tank company, which is supposed to be very good against infantry. But what was he beaten by? Infantry. The good old 40 with some Dankus Memecus just stomping through here, supported by the green air and the cast support. This bad boy.
The thing about...
Oh, and there's the rockets now added.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The thing about the green air, and we were saying, you know, he has the cast countering build, and he does to an extent, but the problem is the best way that anti-air works against cast is over time. You know, if you need to shoot it down, if the battle lasts 4 hours, you don't have time to shoot it down. They're slamming in there. They've got the railway gun support, they've got the rocket support, and if they can hammer through at a fast enough pace, it doesn't matter how much you can support it. It doesn't matter how much you can shoot down, because you're not able to shoot it down fast enough before it proves decisive. One thing I will credit Discord Pixel for here is that he's not giving up. You know, he's rush deploying men. He's doing what he can to hold the front. He's adapting to it. But honestly,
seems to be out micro, though the resource slot's not so much a thing anymore.
No.
But he's not giving up. And one thing I want to give kudos to him is the beautiful build of his railway. What a genius
it was
move.
really good.
99% of players will build their railway straight
Simply
down
on
the
the short
coast, and
distance.
he just went around. Beautifully played.
Very nice.
Big
definitely
brain.
helping. Definitely helping. Definitely slowing down this offensive, which makes you think: was he? You know, did he see this coming? Was he concerned about the massive soft attack? I mean, let's take a look at Dankus' perspective here. He's still committed. He's a man who is not going to take his win for granted. He's going to micro his way to the end, and we see that glorious Dankus railway gun being advanced ever onwards as he pushes deeper and deeper into the heartland here. I mean, I have to imagine now we're feeling particularly disheartened on Discord Pixel's side, things falling apart a little, but the defensive line is not terrible. We've got mountains here, we've got you know, some defensive positions, but it's very, very hard to see how anything could turn this around. I mean, he had those Rush B divisions. I believe he has now disbanded them in favor of simply getting that what little manpower he can. He's also out of fuel. Not the wisest idea. I think fuel might actually be part of Discord Pixel's downfall here. His carriers should absolutely not be at sea. Perhaps they shouldn't even exist, because he's got, I mean, the fuel deficit is going to make his tanks just perform so much worse than they would be doing otherwise. And, you know, tile by tile, this is not an encirclement, this is not a pincer, this is a roll over. It is, in fact, you know, the name of my favorite metal band that does not exist as far as I know. It's the Full Frontal Assault, which is, it's just
Gonna
coming...
exist tomorrow.
I hope so. It's just coming. I mean, look at this. There's the encirclement. I mean,
that might be game-ending encirclement here. And it's interesting to see how, especially tomorrow and the next game, Discord Pixel comes back from this. Is his build still working? Is it still good enough, especially as the Axis? He's gonna have to refine his way approaching these games.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the tank-heavy builds so far have lost both to the Navy-heavy build and to the air-heavy build. It's very interesting to see that we're going quite so air-heavy, especially because these are some relatively large air zones. You know, these are regions that players can be concerned about the air because they're such hefty zones. Range becomes so very, very important. But so far, hasn't proven a problem for this going in here. I mean, they're cutting in, the encirclement is complete, and that is more or less the final, in fact, it literally is the final division for Discord Pixel has been encircled.
And there's the GG. The GG has been called.
It is.
Kudos to both players. Beautifully played by Dankus Memecus here.
It certainly was. It certainly was. I mean, the pivotal moment, it has to be, they thought it was a rock, paper, scissors. He played rock, the enemy played scissors, and somehow he ended up losing anyway. You know, he had the position in there to be able to counter the tank, counter the air, but it just didn't. It simply didn't. I mean, we saw battle after battle where the superior firepower simply won out. And I think, really, honestly, what has to come of this game is people need to reevaluate whether it's true that the Japanese are, in fact, the meta players, the Axis, because they've been played a lot, and they've been successful. A fair amount of that time, they've been really quite successful, but with this display here, I mean, it's easy to see why people might start turning to other ideas. And one that I really want to see someone experiment with tomorrow is the Italians. Now, the Italians get a better industry build-up. They're kind of the US of it. And yeah, I mean, the surprise on my face, I think, needs to be shared. I mean, that was not what we expected.
Yeah, I must say I'm quite shocked. I have thousands of hours in this game, and I don't know what just happened. We had an anti-air build fighting an air build, but the air build still won.
I know.
Beautifully done by Dankus. The cast still able to push through and do the soft attack damage it needed for the push through.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how Pixel's going to play next time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I'm so surprised, not only an air build, but an air build with a huge industry investment in the land. And I think it's the power of the US allied nations pick. They have a fantastic ability to build up this massive industrial thing going on. But it's been, I mean, it's been quite something to see so far. The arsenal of democracy so far has been hammering its way, keeping, you know, single-handedly carrying the Allied win rate on its back.
I also think that this game might slowly push us to a 50-50 win rate.
Yes, it might well. It might well. It might well. But that's enough from us, I think. It was a brilliant game. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We have one more round for you, but before we move on to that, we're going to throw you back over to our wonderful hosts.
I can't believe Dankus made me run downstairs.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was sat here admiring the casters, listening to everything going on, and I was like, pulled out my phone, I was like, you and the cameraman might want to get down here, the game's about to be won. It was quite the scenario to come across. Just to harp on what they were saying as well, I think this is the moment that might shake up the established meta in our first 9 games that we were talking about so heavily beforehand. I think it's just been thrown out the window. And a lot of the players are going to have to come in and reevaluate where they're putting their effort, because I think Dankus has just pointed out that pure skill and understanding of how micro works can still turn things around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we did say before the start of the game that this was probably the the fight for Seed 2.
Yes.
Dankus now has 3 wins, 1 loss. We don't know how the other games have gone.
They're still playing right now because of that capitulation victory, which again, I think that's the first capitulation victory we've had on camera fully. Like, I might be incorrect, but just at least in such a full extent where the other player didn't give up either.
Yeah, the thing that was interesting to me is because that was one of the things I was going to go out on a limb at like round 1 when we were talking about, you know, capitulation, and I was like, I don't think anyone's going to do that. I think they're going to GG out before if they know that they're losing. But I'm happy that that was not necessarily the case, right? So I'm glad I didn't mention that because, oh boy, would I look stupid. So I'm glad I, you know, didn't say it, didn't mention it, none of that.
Yeah, and it still also reinforces how there's multiple ways that these maps can be played. The thing is, the victory points are there just as, you know, the fail-safe for the timer more than anything. There's still a chance that you could essentially wipe a player out even before you get the victory points. It would be a monumental task, and if that is the thing that I would say, I don't think anyone's going to do it, that they'd hold none of the victory points and still capitulate someone, but it's not without the realm of possibility.
No, and I just heard that we have Dankus with us, so let's see if we can... Oh, there it is. The rare Dankus smile.
Yep.
How are you feeling?
Great. I did the same thing twice, but better this time, so... I mean, yeah, I improved on the last game. I didn't manage to cap CMOF's last game. It was, as I said to you guys, it was barely, so I made it... barely that I actually got the VP, but this time I capped discard picks like 15 or 20 minutes early before the game was supposed to end, so I think I've improved on this strat quite a lot. Yeah, so like
round 4, decisive victory. Do you feel like, are you getting like more information against your opponents with each game, or are you like refining your strategy, or is this a case where it's like there's more you feel like you can do different things depending on what side you get picked?
Sadly, discard was very predictable. He did the same thing 3 games in a row. He got access all 3 times and he played Japan all 3 times, doing the exact same thing with his factories. So already I kind of knew he would do like support tanks or something, like the other players said he did. And so yeah, I always invest into anti-tank in case, as a support company, which is more than enough, and then, yeah, they were easy to push.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably one of the things that we haven't necessarily talked about yet, because, of course, we haven't played that many games in this map mode, but the predictability of your opponent seems like it can matter a lot here, right?
Yeah, I know I'm getting kind of predictable with this USA strat, and yeah, I kind of have to switch it up maybe.
Maybe they've forgotten it all tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, there's one more game.
There is one more
I
game.
have to play allies again.
So are you thinking you're going to go for just try and use that last game to refine your strategy, or you can try something different now that you feel a lot more secure that the current competition of the the number 2 slot for you right now is just been beaten? So
yeah,
what are you thinking?
I mean, I'll get the last win probably. Habibi has not had a great day so far. He has 4 losses so far, and yeah, well, I won against the people he lost against, so
yeah. I mean, and because it has been pointed out several times, I'm just going to go in and be the Habibi defender and say here that yes, he does have 4 losses, but one of them is actually kind of a tie. But yeah. I mean, 100% when he asks, I'm like, yeah, it's totally a tie.
We're just not giving you the points.
Thank you so much, Dankus. Best of luck in your last game and tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I mean, like we mentioned before, we don't know how the last 2 games in round 4 are gonna, well, the results yet. We will know that when when we come back.
Yes.
And at that point, we'll probably have a really interesting leaderboard for you guys to look at. But until then, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with the final round of the day.